everybody, and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Taylor Rockwell, and on today's episode, we're spending 45 minutes at least discussing how it was possible for Austin to beat LAFC 1-0 during the international break. Joe Lowry is now handing me a note. Son and Bouanga were on international duty. Okay, so that's sorted, which means we now have a lot of time to do our 2025 regular season awards. Joe, are you excited, apprehensive, terrified, bloated, all of the above? How you feeling?
All but the last, I think. I hope. I'm not exactly sure.
All of the above he's not feeling? Got it? Cool.
Right. Yep, nailed it. I think you just gave listeners and viewers a good look at your mind, Taylor, where I imagine you checked the MLS scores from this weekend, saw that Austin beat LAFC, and were like, how did this happen? And then you clicked on the lineup, and you said, that explains that, and then you closed the tab. That's my prediction for how that all went down.
Well, originally it was going to be a joke about how boring the games were because it was during an international window and people weren't maybe as focused. And then I thought, oh, no, there were some interesting results in there. Like, I take that back. There was some stuff happening. And then I looked at some of the stuff that was happening and realized why some of that stuff in particular might be happening. And now here we are. We could talk wooden spoon race, Jeff Ruder. I know you're very excited about that one. DC Atlanta, the battle of not even mediocrity. Mediocrity would be improvement.
I know. Mediocrity is too kind a word for these two. I love that we have a clash for the spoon on decision day. And it's really funny because it might be the most consequential game. There's a couple of seeding things you need to figure out, especially in the Western Conference in terms of the hierarchy of 6 through 9, give or take. But the spoon, the clash for a spoon. How often do you actually get to see the two worst teams in a league battle to determine who is the worst team in the league? Arthur Blank spent billions of dollars to build a fortress for this sort of an occasion, and I'm glad that the Bens will get to welcome one of the marquee games of the year.
Question for you both. Would you rather that game be like strangely very good, and it's like 4-3 and both teams are high-flying and playing really exciting, or would you rather it be representative of the season and they're just like hoofing crosses 40 yards out of bounds unable to complete? Maybe a couple foul throws in there. Would that be an ideal result?
Yeah, I don't know how Ronnie Dyla can help himself but make his team cross over and over and over till the season ends. It actually is like a foul throw is like the most universally like it's one of those things that like calms everyone who ever plays rec league and does a foul throw and feels embarrassed. It's like, okay, well, that guy just did it, so I'm fine. But it's also the number one thing where like you see it happen during a live professional soccer game and you're just like, you can't even throw the ball in.
It's impossible for that to happen and not quietly say to yourself, come on. Like, you have to. Yes. No matter what. If you're playing, if you're watching.
Exactly. For your team, against your team, you're still like, buddy, just get the ball back in there.
Come on, buddy. All right, well, we are going to do our season review categories in draft form. I'm very excited for that one. We'll get into how that format's going to work. First, Jeff, you dropped some news on Friday that listeners might have missed. Those who did see it might want some more info about. So, if you would, tell us more.
Yeah, again, some of you may have seen this on Blue Sky and on Twitter and Instagram, but as of last Friday, October 10th, I am no longer a part of the Athletics staff. I spent 6.5 years on their staff and an additional year beforehand, midway through 2018 onwards, exclusively freelancing for them when they're in their startup phase. Tremendously grateful to have worked with some of the best writers and editors in the industry and to help really kind of launch myself into another part of my career covering this sport and establishing myself in the landscape. As far as some FAQs, and I've got dozens of people who've reached out that I need to get back to. I just kind of took the weekend, went up north off the grid for a little bit. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to answer some of the FAQs that I've been getting. I'm not going to discuss much more about what happened with the departure. But yes, I do intend to cover for soccer moving forward. This is still very much what I do for a living, and I would like to continue to do it for a living. No, I do not know what's next for my written coverage. But yes, unless I'm about to get absolutely gazumped in this segment here, I do plan to stay on the Total Soccer Show on Tuesdays for the rest of the postseason to talk through this. So you will at least still hear my voice. I've got a couple of ideas of how I can maybe write words again because it's been over a month and I'm getting twitchy. But yeah, thank you again for everyone for your kind words and your support. And keep supporting written work where you like it, because if you say you like written work but you're not reading it, like look out, Laurel Failer put out another former freelancer at The Athletic put out a fantastic open letter to MLS comms on Tuesday morning as we're recording this, and as a big part of it, like, look, I come from a national perspective. I don't have the same sort of local access dependence that a local writer will have, but I will say those local writers have always been the lifeblood of written coverage of Major League Soccer, because they actually understand guy number 28 on your squad in a way that someone dropping in like me maybe can't fully appreciate the stories thereof. Access is a tremendously tricky thing for those writers, and I think that it is very important for MLS to look back at what was working before 2020, because so much of their media ecosystem has become flawed and disjointed and hard to find and inaccessible and paper thin when you look at what's happened between them gutting their online coverage on MLSsoccer.com to the point where they're using generative AI to write the most useless match recaps you've ever read in your life, to not having that freelancer network where then it's harder to find who these writers are. So if you have one and you love them, cherish them dearly, give them a couple of bucks a month, they'll love you forever. And yeah, I think beyond that, all I can just say is I'm looking forward to winning the MLS awards draft on today's Total Soccer Show.
I look forward to that as well. Joe, did you appreciate the veiled threat that if you do too well on this one, Jeff is out?
I just was taken aback by how good the word gazumped is, and I realizing that I need to integrate it into my vocabulary more often. I will say this, Jeff. I have long before we got to know each other, I've long been an admirer of your work. Especially, I mean, still the thing that I am like, in a weird way, like most grateful to you for doing is all of the USL coverage that you did for years and years at The Athletic, opening up doors to places that people just weren't going, and really crushing all of that. And then the other thing that I've long thought is an amazing attribute of yours is the range that you have, like to go from U.S. men's national team to women's national team to USL to MLS to NWSL to Club World Cup ? Not easy to do in the way that you've done it so well. I've been a big fan of yours. Will continue to be, even as I have to crush your spirit on today's draft.
Thanks, man.
Joe said
most of that meant a lot.
Joe said it very well, and I'm grateful for that range and breadth of coverage that he's already mentioned. I'm grateful that you've been with us on this show as much as you have for as long as you have, and have brought such valuable insight that I am incapable of providing when it comes to Major League Soccer. And I really appreciate getting to listen to you and Joe talk about it every single week, because you all care about this league, cover this league in such detail, have such interesting thoughts about it that I don't think there are many like you two. Though I will say, Jeff, I do wonder if, like, in those sleepless nights in the cold light of day, do you ever wish that you were as good a writer as the generative AI? Like, do you wish that you wrote about corners and throw-ins and the like?
Yeah, look, there's a certain clarity of voice when you can just generate and free associate onto a page in general and not worry about editing, not worry about flow. It is a freeing form of writing. So in that sense, I suppose if I had to cover MLS during an international break, it might be nice if I could just word vomit and go.
Well, when people viewing this see like a younger, brighter, more enthusiastic, stronger memory Taylor, they'll just know that I've been replaced by AI as well, and now it's doing the video production as well. Until then.
Just says hello and welcome every 10 minutes in the episode.
And on that note, hello and welcome, everybody. Yeah. It's like when I reset during a podcast, as though people took a break during the radio ads. Let's talk some season awards, shall we? So, as I said, the plan is we're going to do a draft. Whoever gets the first pick, we're going to flip a coin. I have a coin here. It's a real one. You
Tails.
can hear it.
Tails.
Joe calls tails. They will get to pick first. The person choosing next cannot pick the same player. You will each have an opportunity to make your case. Then you'll each have an opportunity to rebut, either to attack the other person's points or to follow up with anything else you felt like you might have missed. And then I, as dictator and king of this podcast in this particular episode, will get to decide who wins. Sort of. Probably. I feel not very qualified to do that. But I look very much forward to it. Joe has called tails. Sorry, Joe. It's heads. Jeff, I'm assuming you would prefer the first pick?
Yeah.
What state was it? Oh, it wasn't even a state. I was hoping it was Minnesota.
Makes me sick.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Makes me
those
sick.
invaluable 50 states collections that we all got when we were kids in the 90s and are sitting in our basements.
They're
Nice.
as good as the several commemorative coins my father has purchased. Let's get to the big one. Most valuable player. Paint the picture. Tell the story. Make your case. Say Lionel Messi. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say it's nice I'm leaving The Athletic, and now I'm going to say Lionel Messi anyway. No, it's it's really hard to imagine where this Inter Miami season could have possibly gone without him. And you could argue that it would have made none of the same corresponding decisions without him. You probably don't have Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets being defensive liabilities in their advancing stages of their apparently retired careers. They wouldn't have Javi Mascherano making his first club coaching appointment. But what you would have is a team of players that does still have a lot that needs to be sort of determined for them. Structurally, this is not a great team defensively, right? And in an attack, I think that they still are trying on vibes. But I think Lionel Messi is the only reason any of it works. It's the only reason that this is a genuine MLS Cup frontrunner. He has had 26 goals, 17 assists, something like that. Like the counting stats are just leagues ahead of anybody else, and it's the consistency. And you're seeing, I think, more so than you did in 2024. He is bothered when he doesn't win games in Major League Soccer. He's more bought in, I would say, to his team's success, and some people would say it's to the detriment of the overall aesthetic. But I think that he's been more valuable to his team than any player has been, and that has nothing to do with jersey sales. So I am going to say Lionel Messi for MVP. He's probably going to go back-to-back.
All right. So Jeff has Messi back-to-back. Joe, make the counter argument or make the argument in favor of somebody else whenever you want.
First of all,
hello and welcome.
I think it's sickening that Jeff is still in the pocket of state media like this. I mean, this absolutely just disgusts me to my core. I'm going to say some things on today's show that I don't mean, just to be very, very clear. Let's start that right now. Actually,
great argument, Jeff.
I wish every podcast would start with that.
I'm gonna say some things. Yeah, Taylor doesn't even know who's who, so I don't. Taylor Taylor.
Welcome.
Understryer or already off the rails. Understryer should be this year's MVP. I think that is pretty clear by what we've seen from him on the field this season. Think about how good San Diego have been as an entity and how good Understryer has been within that. He is second in MLS in non-penalty goal contributions this year at 30. He has been the most important presence to a San Diego team that has done things that we've never seen in MLS history. This is new ground that San Diego are treading right now, and they would not have tread that ground as the best, most successful expansion team in MLS history to this point in each's respective seasons. They would not have been in that position without Anders Dreyer putting in the performances that he has. Now, some might say, well, Lionel Messi's also put in some pretty good performances. And some might say that Lionel Messi has accumulated more non-penalty goals and assists than Anders Dreyer, and shouldn't that be what this is all about? And to that I say, first of all, be quiet, I'm talking. And second of all, I would say to that, Lionel Messi has been playing with a bunch of his teammates for 15 years. Anders Dreyer had never met any of the people that he's playing soccer with until February. That is a completely different context. Once again, we have seen great seasons in MLS. We have seen great individual seasons. Carlos Vela has had great seasons. Carlos Vela has won MVP. Lionel Messi has won MVP. We've seen great seasons from these players before. We've never seen a great season in this context to this extent before of someone in new surroundings for a new team that hasn't existed put in this kind of performance as a legitimately elite attacking talent in Major League Soccer. Anders Dreyer, because of the context around him, has been the most valuable player in MLS this season. I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Jeff, rebuttal.
This is great because this isn't an official pick, but I can say he's an obvious front runner for the newcomer of the year, and that's a fine consolation because I think that you look and there's actually been. He's not overperforming expectations, which tells me that I think that he is benefiting a lot from the collective, right? Rather than succeeding in spite. I guess when you think of like the absolute best, like succeeding in spite of the system around him is probably Hani Mukhtar in 22. Maybe would have been your best bet in terms of Gary Smith's system being very defensive first and Hani Mukhtar willing his team forward. I think with Dreyer, I mean, like he overperformed his XG by 0.8, right? Compared to Lionel Messi's 5.8, right? So I think that a lot of it has been, as Mikey Veras so fantastically put it to you, the most important players on that field are some of their lowest paid. They're the defenders. They're the ones who keep the team from giving up goals. They're the players who keep the ball recirculating in possession. And I think if you have a game model like that, I think that other players could have succeeded as well. That isn't to take away from what Anders Dreyer has done, but I do think when you're looking at who has added value, I think that is something where I do think XG does just kind of help hint at sort of like how is the game model going and what are they doing, sort of grab the game by the scruff of the neck sort of stuff that we all sort of love to see in 90s highlight reels. So,
Jeff, to paint with an indelicate brush, if the argument is that some of San Diego's lowest paid players are the ones who are actually the most important. Would the like hand-in-hand argument be that Inter Miami's least paid players, lowest paid players, are the ones who are oftentimes causing problems and maybe not able to pass the ball, and so Messi has to make up the difference there all the more?
I think you could, and that's where you could say that maybe from a squad building perspective, he is not terribly valuable because he is making them be thin and make other decisions, not just because of the salary cap, but because of the, my God, how much are we paying this guy? We can only really afford to pay this much on the rest of our squad. Especially if they, didn't play Barcelona or Argentina at some point in the last decade. So,
Joe, any other final thoughts? Joach of the year?
I will cede my time, and Taylor, can you just go ahead and deliver your verdict to Jeff? Because I have something to say about Lionel Messi that I'd like to do.
I mean, I feel like you're trying to manipulate me into
like
doing what you want.
Limbo, yeah.
And I will. It's Lionel Messi. Which I wasn't sure if that would be the case. Truthfully, I wasn't sure if there were compelling arguments for other candidates because there are other candidates out there. I didn't know if it was like, if we were going to be making the arguments because they are in good faith and there should be other people, or if it was because 2 years in a row it's Messi, it feels kind of same, but it does seem like in the end he is the deserving most valuable player.
It's just a no-brainer, right? It's an absolute no-brainer. And this should be so obvious, right? Like, I know we kind of all threw a fit last year when Messi won MVP because he barely played soccer. The dude is amazing.
Context.
And Miami, even thinking about last year, Miami would not have set the record for the most regular season points in MLS history without Lionel Messi. Like, I mean, he was so crucial to that team. If you take Messi out of this Miami team, are they even a playoff team? I really don't. I think I get some very serious Ricky Puig from last year vibes out of this year's Miami project. I mean, Messi is everything to them. And even if you set aside the traditional, how bad would the team be when you take him out argument that gets made about MVPs, Messi also is in historic territory for his pure individual numbers. Like, forget the team context. He has 41 combined non-penalty goals and assists. That is the most all-time. We've never seen a player do what Messi's doing. He has the best season. Strip out the penalties. He has the best season in MLS history. He has 3 goal contributions away, penalty or otherwise, which he scored 0 penalties this year, by the way.
Yeah, he has
He's
no
taken
penalties
0.
this year. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's all pure, like, non-penalty stuff. If he scores or contributes 3 goal contributions, penalty, goal, assist, whatever, he will tie Carlos Vela's 2019 record for most overall goal contributions, which is the one that gets touted all the time because people don't care enough to strip the penalties out, which I think they should. But Messi is doing stuff that we've never seen in MLS before. Like when Bob Bradley and LAFC brought in Carlos Vela into their expansion project, Bob Bradley sat Carlos Vela down in the film room and said, "I want you to be Messi," which we all like kind of laughed at and everything. Well, he kind of was in Major League Soccer. And now we have the real thing, and we're actually seriously talking about whether he's MVP or not. I mean, all the other awards are real conversations. This one is not. Like, this one is fake. Messi is MVP, and I honestly do not understand how he could not get every single vote from every single voter.
All right. Well, a compelling argument made by Jeff there, and I guess echoed by Joe. 1 point to Jeff then. But we'll see how Joe does with first pick in the Coach of the Year category, which we will get to right after this break. Welcome back to the Total Soccer Show. Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. Resetting after the radio break that we all know just happened. Let's get to Coach of the Year. Joe, Wilfred Nancy is the reigning champion. You going to make it 2 for 2 just like we did with Messi?
I am not, but Wilfred Nancy, I do think, is a phenomenal coach, and that will surprise no one. My pick for Coach of the Year, and truly this will be my vote come the ballot. That's the luxury of picking first. Jesper Sorensen of the Vancouver Whitecaps. The Vancouver Whitecaps have finished, Jeff, I like that pain grimace on your face. Vancouver have finished between 6th and 12th in the Western Conference every year since 2018. That is 7 consecutive seasons. This year is different. And obviously new players have helped, right? I've talked with Jesper Sorensen. He is quick to, as I try to be, point to the players as a primary reason for any coach's success. And you don't usually hear the failure bit, but Anthony Hudson said the quiet part out loud at times. So it is true that players matter, and they matter the most. But this is not a totally different Vancouver roster to the one that Vanni Sartini had last season. Vancouver returned the 12th highest share of minutes from 2024 to 2025. That data is from Elliot McKinley over at American Soccer Analysis. It was from preseason. That paints a picture of them being a team that brought back a lot of players, right? 12th most. So this is not a brand new team. This is also a team, by the way, that got just 3 league starts out of Ryan Gauld before he suffered a knee injury. He's still not started a game since that knee injury. Now he's back to playing soccer, but he hasn't started. Jesper Sorensen, first-year manager in Vancouver, coming over from Denmark, has gotten a ton out of a team that his predecessors just straight up did not, and that most of his peers, I firmly believe, would not. And you don't need to look much further for that second bit than the fact that Vancouver are almost certainly going to finish on top of the Western Conference right now. They're currently on top. They've got the edge heading into decision day. While they also made a deep run all the way to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. Historically in Major League Soccer, teams that make deep runs in CCC do not do well in the MLS regular season. Vancouver have bucked that trend this year, where they have not just been good in MLS, they've been great in MLS, even after spending all of that early season energy on their CONCACAF run. Toss in the Canadian Championship win, toss in the fact that they are still very much a contender for MLS Cup. All of that's been built on the back of Jesper Sorensen's style of play, where he has brought them so much more control and balance between attack and defense. They have some of the best underlying numbers in Major League Soccer. They've gotten real elite-level production out of someone like Seb Berhalter by moving him into midfield, Jesper Sorensen, away from that right wing-back role he played for a bunch of last year. You can apply that concept of Sorensen maximizing each player to virtually every single player in this roster. There's a clear structure. There's a clear identity that helps players make faster decisions on the field. There's balance to how they play. The success has been there, and Sorensen has done it clearing a clear bar that had been there for an entire organization for year after year after year. Vancouver are one of the 2, 3, 4 best teams in the entire league. Sorensen, I think, very clearly deserves Coach of the Year.
A very compelling argument. I have one more thing to add, but we will get to it in rebuttals. For now, Jeff Ruder, to you for your Coach of the Year.
If you're looking for alternatives, you actually do have a lot this year. There's been some really good.
Not a strong start, Jeff.
No, I agree. I know, but like I think that you look and it's. You could say that there have been really good steps that have been made by like Minnesota and Nashville under Eric Ramsey and BJ Callahan in their first full seasons as head coach, because both were hired after the start of last season. I think that you would look obviously at Bradley Cardinal winning the Supporters' Shield as a evidence of being the best coach. But as Joe alluded to last week after they won it, a lot of his job is taking the players that Ernst Tanner wants to play and the system Ernst Tanner wants to play, right? And I'm not taking away from Bradley Cardinal there, but when I'm looking at someone who's maybe done a little bit more that seems to be of their own volition, I think that's where you get to Mikey Veras in San Diego. And I think that's where you look at saying setting records is really cool. And if you are the best expansion team in the history of a league that has a chronic expansion addiction, that is probably a very good bit of history to make. I think that you can also look and say that they've arguably played the most aesthetic soccer of the season, and certainly the most aesthetic that bears results. This is the Wilfred Nancy argument from 2 years ago, which is coming in and being able to elevate the aesthetic. And then you take in the fact that these were players who didn't know each other's names, and some of these players had never lived out of their home countries before they came here. Brand new system, knows that he needs to coach at a high level with some players who were other teams' second or third stringers in their spots, and still has been able to come in, make it so that Chukwueze Lozano looks worth the money. That's really hard to do, by the way, as a coach, to get your your marquee designated player firing and bought in from day one, even if they aren't the most successful player, which has not been the case this year. It's been Anders Dreyer, as we've discussed. I just think when you look at the collective overall, when you look at the inability for this team to fall out of games entirely, or certainly to have 3 bad results in a row, which at a minimum is what you would expect from an expansion team. This is not a team that looks like an expansion team, and I think that is a testament to the coaching of Mikey Veras.
Jeff, I think that's a very, very good point. And it's one that I am struggling with, Joe, to be totally honest, is that when you have an expansion team to play as well as they did and look as strong as they did throughout the season, there's a pretty compelling argument that the coach deserves a lot of credit for that. Why isn't Mikey Veras Coach of the Year, Joe?
Yeah. First of all, Jeff talked about how Veras has gotten something out of Lozano, and it's difficult to get something out of your high-end DPs. I sure rather have high-end DPs and have that problem than have Jesper Sorensen's problem, where he didn't even have his best attacking player for almost the entire season. Like Ryan Gauld was basically a 0 this year. In response to your question, Taylor, it is easier in my mind. Like truly, this is actually what I believe, and this is what's guiding my vote. It is easier to start fresh than it is to rebuild. Let me say that, and let me say one other thing. Mikey Veras had a lot more help than Jesper Sorensen, and the same goes for Bradley Cardinal, by the way. Had a lot more help, and what I mean by that is there's top-down direction, stylistic direction in San Diego, and there's top-down stylistic direction in Philly. But to stick with San Diego for a second, Mikey Veras and San Diego FC brought in help from FC Nordsjælland, their sister club over in Denmark, part of the Right to Dream network, in preseason. They had extra voices from their existing multi-club network to come in and help communicate some of the finer details of the San Diego FC, the Right to Dream style of play. Tyler Heap, sporting director in San Diego, has a very clear stylistic vision that he's detailed to me and others. He's detailed it to everybody because you see it on the field. That is the right to dream approach. Tyler Heaps has bought into that. He has maybe iterated on it. Some easy for me to say. And of course, Mike Yvares plays a role in that. I am by no means trying to discredit everything that he has done. But compared to Vancouver, where Jesper Sorensen isn't getting that sort of top-down stylistic direction from Axel Schuster and from the Vancouver front office, that doesn't exist. Because if it did, we wouldn't have seen such a big disparate nature between how Vanni Sartini wanted to play and now how Jesper Sorensen's wanted to play. So I think it is truly a difference of one of these coaches has had a lot more help and one of them has had almost no help and has had free reign to build a style on their own. And man, it's easier to operate in an organization that gives you that sort of support that you get in San Diego. San Diego, I think, are the better organization. But if we're talking about who is the better coach, who has had the harder job and done better with it, I really, truly think that should be Jesper Sorensen.
And Joe, Vancouver gave Sorensen no help at all, no designated players coming in like around the summer who maybe had
Thomas Muller? Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Huh.
Yeah, of course. Thomas Muller's a good ad. What I will say is,
is
that
he?
comes in, yeah, believe it or not. That comes
I suppose if you find him on the ground.
Are we gonna pretend like there weren't some questions about how that all would work? Because there were, right? The injury pile has been massive, and Thomas Muller's been part of that for Vancouver. But of course, adding Thomas Muller helps. But nothing about Vancouver's build, nothing about Jesper Sorensen's plan for this year included Thomas Muller. Like, their success had come primarily, the bulk of their success had come before he showed up. And that they get him in the aftermath of the Ryan Gauld injury is massive for their future. But I don't think that really discredits the Sorensen case at all.
Fair. Jeff, does anything discredit the Sorensen case? Do you have any rebuttals, or do you just want to give a carpet nuh-uh?
Nuh-uh.
Okay, fair enough. Then I will give it to Jesper Sorensen and Joe Lowry. For all the reasons mentioned, I also had the stylistic direction as a slight knock against Mikey Varas, even if that's slightly unfair. I do wonder if Thomas Muller even goes to Vancouver if they aren't as strong as they've been. Money talks, but I think quality and performance also factor in there for somebody like Thomas Muller. So I think in the end, it's Sorensen for me. Are we being unkind to Bradley Carnell at all?
Well, Bradley Carnell, and I was also going to mention BJ Callahan, who I think, Jeff, you did mention BJ already.
He did.
Briefly, yeah.
He called him the wrong name, but he mentioned him.
He's done a phenomenal job, Patches O'Houlihan, in Nashville this year. Like, he has done an incredible bit of work with them. We're completely transitioning their style. And I think of BJ sort of in the Jesper Sorensen category of he's not getting that top-down stylistic direction from Mike Jacobs. Like, he had to remake BJ Callahan Nashville's entire identity in the same way that Jesper Sorensen had to do it in Vancouver. I think about this as the Jeff, you mentioned MLS's expansion addiction.
Yeah.
Think about how hard it has been for some of the OG clubs in MLS to revitalize themselves. Like, MLS has an FC Dallas problem. MLS has a Houston Dynamo problem. MLS has a DC United problem. MLS doesn't have a San Diego problem or an LAFC problem. MLS doesn't really even have an Atlanta United problem, even though things have gone sort of sour there. The expansion clubs are the ones that are generally sort of the ones that are being put forth at the front of the pack right now. And I think it applies to coaching too. It is easier to start from nothing than it is to do what BJ Callahan and Jesper Sorensen and those guys have done. And even to zoom out on one broader point, I think the quality of coaching in MLS right now is higher than it has literally ever been. Like there are good coaches in this league that we're starting to see have real impacts at their clubs. Wilfried Nancy, I still think, is probably the best coach in MLS. Like, if I get to pick one of the 30, I'm picking Wilfried Nancy to start my new team, if that's a thing that I get to do. But man, you could run through a list of 10, maybe more than that, guys that you would be very happy starting a new expansion club with, and I don't think we've ever really been able to say that before.
All righty. Well, I think very compelling arguments, very strong arguments for multiple coaches. I knew Jeff would get some Wilfried Nancy love in there at some point, and by Jeff, I mean Joe. I'm just going to keep going with the flipping of names. I'm also going to put us on the clock for our next few categories, so we move a little bit faster. Let's go to Goalkeeper of the Year. Jeff, I believe we come back to you for the first pick here. The reigning Goalkeeper of the Year would be Christian Kalina. We're going to go with a repeat again, Jeff?
I don't think we are. And I don't think it's necessarily much fault of Kalina's. I think he's actually been okay, right? Like, there have been a lot of one-goal games that he's needed to backstop and buoy during. But if I'm looking right now, I think it's Dane St. Clair. And I think a lot of it has been, you look at games like the Minnesota game against San Diego a few weeks ago, And it was so headstand necessity where he is a goalkeeper who's really come into his own. He got drafted in 2019, has been a regular since 21 or so after taking the job from Tyler Miller. And I think that you're seeing much more of that sort of like Andre Blake factor, where when you face off against, you assume that your team is going to have a harder time finding the back of the net because of the goalkeeper against. I think that there's only really ever a few goalkeepers in the league who have that cachet at any given time. And I think this was the year that he really ascended into that. And he has a pretty vital role on restarts in the system as well. But, I guess another way to put this is I don't think that there's a clear runaway like Kalina would have been last year or like when Matt Turner won the award. But I think that in a good year for MLS goalkeepers, I think it's Dane St. Clair's.
All right, Joe. Jeff went a minute 10. I will give you the same to make your argument for whomever you would like to make it for.
All right, let me have us all hop in a time machine and travel back to August 19th, 2025. Simpler times,
10.
really. Thanks, Jeff. August 19th, 2025. Drake Callender, $750,000 in general allocation money. Charlotte FC and Inter Miami. Charlotte FC traded for Drake Callender from Inter Miami back in the summer transfer window for that chunk of change. And yet Christian Kalina, even despite of his organization's lack of faith in him, continued to put in good performances. There's no other way to read, by the way, the Callender trade other than we are succession planning for Christian Kalina. And there are two ways to take that. The first way is to say, I'm just going to sort of crumble up within myself. And the other way to take it is the way that Christian Kalina took it, which is I'm going to go on one of the hottest hot streaks that MLS has ever seen. Charlotte FC had that 9-game win streak that we talked about. 9 games unbeaten, Charlotte, if you could believe that for a time. They had that 9-game winning streak. On 8 of those 9 games, Christian Kalina saved more goals than expected. In one of those games, he made MLS's social media account very sad because he saved a Lionel Messi penalty, and the caption was as hilariously impassionate towards Kalina as you could possibly imagine. This year, Christian Kalina has been 4th in goals saved above expected. He fueled a win streak that we have not seen in years in Major League Soccer. He has been consistently one of the best shot stoppers and has come up in the biggest moments against the biggest players. And he has faced a level of personal adversity that Dane St. Clair and every other goalkeeper in this conversation has not. I will be picking Christian Kalina today. Thank you very much.
Jeff, Joe went over by 13 seconds. So you're going to ask for 13 seconds.
How about a little buzz?
Rebuttal.
Give a guy a little buzz, you know?
Give a guy a little buzz.
Tyler would have given
treat.
a guy a little buzz there.
I'm just going to start calling you by an even different wrong name next time when you
Jacob.
go over your time.
You've done really well this season, I've got to say, to not make the Jeff Joes
13 seconds,
like
Jeff.
a regular yip. I have nothing else to say. Like I said, it's kind of a down year.
Buttering
There
up the
isn't an
host.
obvious
I like
front runner. Totally. But can I actually distract and say that I was looking at the league table, and the top 7 teams in both conferences are expansion teams. None of the OG teams are in the top 7 of their respective conference this year. That should be studied and written about by someone with a job.
Oh, too soon.
Joe, that's a rebuttal from a confident person who feels like they have this locked up. Should Jeff be that confident? Do you feel like there is that much support for the Dane St. Clair argument?
I think the Dane St. Clair argument is good. I also legitimately think the Kalina argument is good. St. Clair's numbers, his raw numbers are a little bit better this year. And the set piece stuff is kind of a fun addition to the St. Clair story where he's bombing up those balls into the box from midfield. But Kalina is on a Charlotte team that is really quite unimpressive outside of Christian Kalina. They had a bunch of that win streak without their best outfield player in Pep Biel. They're not where they are in the standings with a legitimate chance to end up as a top 4 team on decision day without Christian Kalina. And I don't know that you can quite say the same about Dane St. Clair. I think they're both good choices, but Kalina and his highs this year to me have been higher than Dane St. Clair's highs.
Jeff, anything else?
Totally fair.
Taylor doesn't know.
Fair.
Taylor doesn't know what he's going to pick.
Jeff doesn't know.
I lean Christian Kalina. I'm not going to
Yes.
lie. And I think some of that relates to the conversation you all had at least maybe a month ago or so, just about how like when they went on a very poor run of form, a lot of it has to do with his poor run of form. He recovers that form, and then they immediately go on a very strong run. Do Charlotte, and I think Joe makes a good argument with the support around him, combined with my feeling that Minnesota has a stronger front office and a clearer direction in what they want to do. Not necessarily that makes the goalkeeper better, but it gives him maybe a stronger supporting cast.
It's a team sport for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like Jeff is mad.
No, I get it.
Jeff,
like I said,
calm down with the fury. Okay, all right. No,
you got it.
Go. Anything else? Sorry, go
it.
ahead.
No, like I said, I think it was a year where there was some transition for other clubs in the goalkeeper position where I don't think we had the same strength. Some injuries for the younger members and a lack of progression from the like World Cup hopefuls of the U.S. men's national team group. When you look at like your Brady's, your Schultes, your Celentanos, like I think I wanted to see at least one of them make a step this year to be the obvious frontrunner, and none of them did, and that's not encouraging.
On a real note, I'll be voting for Dane St. Clair.
Well, now you make me feel like I've been swindled. No, I mean, I think it's that. I think it's the Drake Calvin thing as well. I have to give a lot of respect for a person who like very clearly has their replacement brought in and yet still holds onto that spot and still performs well. Brad Guzan, I would say, kind of did the same thing with Atlanta there, and now he is retiring. It should have been him, unfortunately, but instead I'm giving the edge to Kalina, and I'm giving the next first choice to Joe for Defender of the Year. Steven Moreira of the Crew is your reigning Defender of the Year. Where are we going now, Joe?
I would be going to Tristan Blackman for my Defender of the Year. We've talked about Vancouver and their success this year. Blackman has been a huge part of that. Jeff, we were in the same room when news came down about Ranko Veselinovic's season-ending ACL tear, which felt like a defining moment for Vancouver. And I know we both sort of had to take a moment to collect
in
ourselves.
the studio.
Yeah, in the studio.
Defining.
In all of its glamour. We knew that was going to be a big moment for Vancouver. That put even more pressure, that injury, on Tristan Blackman. And Blackman and Vancouver continued to play really good ball. Tristan Blackman is an incredibly well-rounded defender who has leveraged his play in all phases this year. Set pieces, defensive work, defensive transition, and his distribution out of the back, which has been crucial to how Jesper Sorensen wants to play. He's leveraged all of that into his very first senior men's national team appearance for the U.S. men's national team. He has been very, very good this year as a well-rounded defensive presence. I think coupling the success that Vancouver have had with his individual success and accolades with the fact that one of the best center backs in MLS who usually partners him missed a huge chunk of the season and will not be back. All of those things point me to Tristan Blackman. Now, you do have, just very quickly to mention, he had that MCL sprain last month and so has missed the last few games. None of that's really ended up mattering for Vancouver because they didn't win the Shield, which maybe they would have if Tristan Blackman was around. But they also really didn't have anything left to play for outside of the Shield and the Canadian Championship, which they did win. But he's going to be back, it sounds like, for the postseason, or at least for a good chunk of it, which gives us something to hold on to. So it's a little bit of an anticlimactic vote for me on Tristan Blackman. But I think you look at his body of work this year, you look at what he's accomplished, all signs to me point to Tristan Blackman.
Jeffrey?
I will admit the goalkeeper of the year case, I thought I was going to pick second for that category. So I didn't really have a strong conviction there. I had a strong conviction for defender, and I kind of copy-pasted a lot of that argument for Dane St. Clair's purpose, because Michael Boxall has been the defender of the year, and I think that this has been kind of a culmination of about a 7-year stretch here where Michael Boxall has tended to be one of the better center backs in Major League Soccer. And it starts in 2019, which was the only other season in Minnesota United's history where they were accused at being good at defending and not just okay at it. And at that time, if you remember, it was Iko Parra winning defender of the year and Vito Manone on loan winning goalkeeper of the year. Well, what's changed at that point is that Boxall was the second center back, and he does credit Iko Parra a lot with helping him with kind of like learning the art of muscling guys off the ball and appreciating that sort of like, I don't know, it's a Minnesota reference, but like that Kevin Garnett mentality of just sort of be a menace in the paint and make it difficult to come against. And Boxall, you can see that with some of the shoves that he'll give off the ball or on the ball, and he'll get fouls and he'll kind of shrug at them like, get up, you're an adult. And it's funny, but you also throw in the long throw, which has been possibly the tactical gambit of the year in Major League Soccer. Minnesota United set pieces. John Muller wrote a fantastic piece this summer about it in The Guardian. And he has been at the heart of it, whether it is being at the end of the corner kicks to try to get the flick on header for an assist, or it is, of course, the long throws themselves. I don't think any defender has been more involved or important to their team than Michael Boxall, who also is captain, so I suppose that helps too, has been for Minnesota United in 2025.
Jeff, I think it's a very, very strong point for Michael Boxall. I'm not going to lie. How much credit do you give him for being a 37-year-old center back continuing to play that well?
A lot, and I know that he's put a lot. I spoke with him this spring after he had scored the goal to get New Zealand qualified officially for the World Cup. And he does talk about a lot of diet changes he's had to make and a lot of lifestyle changes and things like this, where it's just that sort of, you have to want that. You have to appreciate the art of defending and the art of just being an athlete, right? And then like taking care of your body and these things. And I think he's gotten quicker. He's definitely gotten stronger. Maybe more light on his feet too. I don't know, but it's been a very, very good couple of years here transitioning. He was very steady and important under Adrian Heath, but under Eric Ramsey, he has made himself probably the most important player in that entire team.
Yeah, I do think there is a really good argument for Boxall. The one that you've made, Jeff, I think is very compelling. I would not be miffed at all if he wins Defender of the Year. The thing that sways me away from Boxall is that I think his defensive system is a little bit easier to be a part of than, say, Vancouver's. Or you could even toss Philly and maybe a Jakob Glesnes or
back
or
three
Seattle
versus back four. That's
and Jackson
right,
Reagan.
yeah.
Back three versus back four. But even more than that, what I'm thinking about is Minnesota United have less of the ball than any team in Major League Soccer, right? And more than that, they defend in their own third a ton, which limits the distance that you have to cover, and it's helped really elongate Michael Boxall's career, this system. But I think when there are less distances to cover, and when you don't have as much of that hard work to do running in behind your own back line to sweep, to me that is a slightly simpler system to be a part of than maybe what you get in some other places. So that's why I am planning truly on going Tristan Blackman. But Boxall, I think, is still, even with all that said, I think he is still a very, very reasonable pick.
I think their counterpoint, by the way, to that would be, they don't want the ball. That means they're spending more of a game defending than any other team does in Major League Soccer. And so it creates more opportunities for it to go wrong, and so seldom does it that I think that actually only enhances the case.
Taylor, all those 4-yard jogs back and forth in the middle of a back line with two giants next to you. That's just trying stuff right there.
With attackers getting touches after
tough.
touches.
It's makes you sad.
I'm hearing some ageist discrimination from Joe, and I can't reward that. So point to Michael Boxall. Joe, maybe I'm wrong, since I've already given the point. Like, I feel like that is the most enthusiastic and positive I have heard you be about Tristan Blackman, largely because I think when we tend to talk about him, it's with a USMNT context. So is it basically you think he is the best defender in Major League Soccer this season, but that still might not be enough to elevate him in U.S.
Correct.
depth rankings?
Yeah, I think whether it's Blackman or Jackson Reagan or Miles Robinson or Walker Zimmerman, like all those guys, I think are fine to be on a U.S. men's national team roster. I don't prefer to see any of them starting for the U.S. men's national team, and I also don't prefer to see Mark McKenzie or CCV or any of these other players. Tim Ream, like Chris Richards is the only one that I want to see starting. So if you could just clone him, that would be great. But none of these players, Blackman included, have really stated a super strong case that they can be the guy for the U.S., but that's just not the bar for Defender of the Year. Different context.
Fair enough. Less fair, Seattle, I'm so sorry that neither of my co-hosts values Jackson Reagan or your team as a whole, but I certainly do. So on that note, please send your angry letters to Joe and Jeff. We'll take a break. We'll come back with Newcomer of the Year and Young Player of the Year. Welcome back to the Total Soccer Show. We continue to give out some awards, and I'm excited because during the break I learned that I don't think Jeff wants first pick for this one, but we're coming to him anyway. I kind of hope you go with the contrarian pick with the first pick on Newcomer of the Year, Mr. Reuter. It's Gabriel Peck is the reigning champion. I don't know if we're going that way this time around.
I don't think he can win again, by definition. No. Yeah, definedly.
Lame.
There should be a 2-time Newcomer of the Year.
That'd be awesome.
History. That would be awesome. Like once and back again, right? It's Anders Dreyer. There's like no other answer because I think that he has made himself as valuable to any team as any player outside of Lionel Messi has in Major League Soccer. And I think to be able to do that in short order, yes, it's a little easier when everyone on the team is new. You can kind of stand out and be the guy if there's no one who was the guy before you in the locker room. But I think that there's also, it's admirable the way that he was able to sort of demand the attention when everyone was so focused on Lozano signing and everyone was so assuming that he would be the Carlos Vela-like figure. And instead, Dreyer, you can also just see it with his tenacity, with how he still plays after like the 90th minute, just watching him making defensive recovery runs and trying to like run one-man breaks like Lewis Morgan in the playoffs last year for the Red Bulls, just desperately trying to drag the ball upfield at a minimum to give his defense a breather, right? Like he's doing some of these like really selfless things that I think are going to like make you beloved to a fan base. And I think that he's done that in short order. So as someone who is the star of my Football Manager 2021 Anderlecht save, Anders Dreyer, congratulations. You've won another award. It's not the Ballon d'Or I got you, but this will work.
Joe, I'm going to give you a choice.
Okay.
You can make your counterpoint argument, or given that you chose Anders Dreyer for your MVP candidate when forced to do so, I'm going to assume that you probably would agree that it is Anders Dreyer as Newcomer of the Year. So we can just agree on that, and then you could give your counterpoint?
This is why I didn't want the first pick. This sounds so much more fun.
How dare you, Taylor, put words in my mouth. Just because I picked Anders Dreyer for MVP does not mean in any way that I think he should be Newcomer of the Year. In fact, sir, I think it should be Philip Zinkernagel who should win MLS Newcomer of the Year. Let me set the stage. Philip Zinkernagel is fourth in MLS in non-penalty goal contributions. He has been... Forget the Greek Berhalter talk.
Do you know who's second? I have it on good authority. I know who's second.
quiet down. Forget all of the Greg Berhalter talk. Philip Zinkernagel has been the single biggest reason why the Chicago Fire are doing something that they haven't done since 2018. The Chicago Fire have not qualified for the postseason since 2018. They've qualified just once since 2013, just twice since 2009. Things have been bleak for more than a decade in the Windy City. And the biggest reason why they have now finally clawed above the playoff line, and they may yet lock down a top 7 spot and get to skip the wildcard game. That's at stake on decision day. The reason for that is Philip Zinkernagel. He has been what we all thought Jonathan Bamba would be. He has been what we all thought Hugo Kuipers maybe could be. He leads this team in goal contributions. He has not had the same advantages that I've talked about earlier that Anders Dreyer has had. San Diego have had very particular advantages this year. Dreyer has had very specific edges this year because of the system around him. Chicago, they're rebuilding everything. It's a very different context. And I think, as I've stated clearly already in the coach of the year conversation, I think it is a much more difficult conversation to have and much more difficult situation to thrive in. And Zinkernagel has very much thrived in 2025. He has 4 non-penalty goals and assists behind Anders Dreyer in a much more difficult environment to succeed in a city that has not seen success from their men's soccer team for a long, long time. To me, truly, all of the difficult circumstances that Zinkernagel has faced make up for just 4 non-penalty goals and assists. I think, legitimately, Philip Zinkernagel deserves a spot as Newcomer of the Year this season.
To paraphrase my cousin Vinny, Joe, that is a lucid, intelligent, well-thought-out argument. Overruled. It's Anders Dreyer.
Yeah, it is. It is. I don't believe most of what I just said.
I do like the idea of, like, the NFL has this, like, unwritten rule where the MVP almost never wins Offensive Player of the Year. And I kind of like the idea where it's like, if you've won the bigger award, we should award it to someone else, even if it does look like you're giving them the silver medal. Yeah. Like, I do like that spirit in general, because otherwise, yeah, some of these do get a little redundant. But yeah.
All right. I have a question that I think Joe will like and Jeff will tolerate.
Okay.
Nice.
How... percentage-wise, how much worse would these two have had to be for Son Heung-min to get like a legitimate argument? Because he's been very good since that signing. And I think if these two hadn't had such strong campaigns, there's maybe that argument that even with the smaller sample size, and he might not have met the minimum qualifications. I forget what they are. I can't remember if that's just MVP or if that's Newcomer as well. But all the same, how much worse would those two have to have been for it to be Son as the runaway?
If Dreyer had been, what, Jeff, like 2/3 of himself, we would be really tempted.
Okay.
13 goals, 8 assists, something like that.
Yeah,
right?
because that's a good season. Like that's a good
season.
That's a very, very good season. Son has 10 goal contributions in like 900 minutes so far for LAFC. I did have Taylor Son and Thomas Muller on my list, but I have next to them arrived too late. Ultimately, that's what it is. Like, you can't win this award after you arrive in the summer. Messi didn't win it after he arrived in the summer of 2023.
Well, he didn't play after he arrived in the summer. He played like 200 minutes, but yeah.
If Messi can't win that award, regardless of the circumstances, after arriving in the summer, I honestly don't know if anybody can. Maybe someday I'll be proven wrong.
All right. Well, the score is 3-2. We go to our final category. Joe, you have the first pick. Young Player of the Year, under the age of 22 years old would be the qualification there. It was Diego Luna last year. He unfortunately is 22 this year, so I believe
he is still eligible, by the way. Yeah, I checked my ballot. He's still on it.
The ruling is that you have to have been 22 at any point in this entire calendar year. So to be eligible, you have to be born in 2003 or later. Diego Luna could win it.
Do it.
I will not. I will not be picking Diego Luna. Real Salt Lake, unfortunately, have not impressed this year. They are still in the fight for the playoffs because everybody and their mom makes the playoffs in MLS. But I will be picking Obed Vargas for this award. And I cannot shake the Leagues Cup final from my mind for Obed Vargas, where I think you can make a real case that Obed Vargas is the one that incites all of the post-game chaos, because it was Obed Vargas that shut down, for huge chunks of that game, the best soccer player who's ever lived, Lionel Messi, who we've already talked about will win MVP. He should win it. He will. He shut down Lionel Messi in one of the Sounders' most important games of the season. Obed Vargas was incredible in that game. Absolutely incredible. He showed a ceiling as a number 8, marking Messi out of that game, tracking his runs, getting into him, getting physical, that we have not seen from almost any other box-to-box midfielder in MLS this season. We have not seen from almost any other box-to-box mid in MLS history. Toss in the fact that Vargas was consistently good across the season as a young player. That is a huge bar to clear. Vargas has been incredible this season in big moments and in the mundane moments. And his ceiling is still sky high. He's got legitimate interest from European clubs. He will make the Sounders a lot of money. He has been so good this year for a really, really good team where minutes as a young player are not guaranteed because there is so much depth in Seattle. You have to earn that every single day. He has done that and more, Obed Vargas.
All right. Strong argument for Obed Vargas from Joe Lowry. Jeff Ruder, make the case for one of two players, I'm assuming?
Yeah, one of two, I'm assuming you're assuming. Yeah, it's Alex
That's a good
Freeman
assumption.
that I will be voting for on mine. Because I think that Alex Freeman has been some of this, he benefits from the surprise element, where I think coming into the year, we expected Obed would make a bit of a leap. Coming into the year, we were assuming Diego Luna would build off of what he had done in his award-winning 2024 as well. And what we saw from Alex Freeman was going from someone who just was not in Oscar Pareja's rotation whatsoever to become maybe the best right back of the season in Major League Soccer. Full disclosure, I gave Obed Vargas was my pick for the 22 under 22 list.
Good thing
I think
you
his
confessed
ceiling
that,
is
Jeff,
higher.
because I was just going to check.
Yeah.
And I was going to see who you put number one. Jeff, just to restate it one more time, put Obed Vargas on top of the list of best young players.
The 22
which is sort
under
of a similar
22.
conversation to what we're having now. Anyway.
Sort of, but I think it skews more towards the future because I think that you want it to age well. That is a list that is such a fun time capsule. If you look back and see Rex Shea winning when he was with FC Dallas and DeAndre Yedlin with the Sounders and these sorts of things, Kakuta Mane with the Vancouver Whitecaps. I think that Obed does have a higher ceiling. I think Obed Vargas genuinely does have the potential to start in a Europa League team at a minimum. But I do also think that Alex Freeman has changed how Orlando plays and has sent the center of chance creation to the right in such a way that you don't see a young player get that freedom from a coach terribly often. I think that he has also made himself indispensable for Mauricio Pochettino, and I know that the national team doesn't factor into this, but I think it is something that does help the narrative around him a bit. It's really close. Those are the top two. They were the top two in my 22 under 22. If we voted for two people on our ballots, they would be my two here. I just think Alex Freeman has been that little bit more impactful, and I think if there was a year for a defender to win it, maybe it is this year.
I really like both of those arguments. Joe, why is it not Alex Freeman, a player that I know that you have lots of love for, lots of enthusiasm for as well, but why is it Obed Vargas and not Alex Freeman?
We've seen Vargas hit a higher high than Freeman has hit this year, which I really do think matters for a young player because it shows what the ceiling could be. Mm-hmm. We've also seen him do it in a position that is just harder to play than Alex Freeman, especially as a young player. Right back is where you go when your team needs you to deputize somewhere. We see this in the USL all the time, to bring that discussion back, where and we see it with Jesse's artists. You see strikers go to right back when just somebody needs to be a body in that part of the field.
One of my short list contenders for Defender of the Year would fit that bill entirely. Andy Nahar.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I mean, it is just a simpler position to play than a 360-degree center mid role. I'll be honest, I want to win this because I like to win stuff. Freeman's a great pick. Freeman is totally defensible. Taylor, I'm curious who your other player was that you were thinking about still. I had Vargas and Freeman on top of my 22 under 22 list. I think they probably should be on top of this list. There are a lot of good young players in MLS that I could even get behind to a slightly lesser degree.
So many. It's awesome. Yeah,
it was a really good year for young
teams
players,
for actually developing talent. It's been great.
So
this year.
I think Freeman, I could vote for Freeman in good conscience, but I will be voting for Obed Vargas.
Quinn Sullivan?
Good pick.
Oh, very
good pick. I don't. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe
you don't like him because he gets injured. That's what I'm hearing.
Too frail for me. No,
you like your best young players not getting injured. I see how it is.
I think it's more just that I think Sullivan's game is a bit one-dimensional, where he's more of a straight line player with a good cross on him. So I guess there's two dimensions. Than Freeman, who can go north, south, and east to west at right back, and Vargas, who has shown an elite trait that I don't think Sullivan has. Maybe that's what it is.
I had a 5. I did my top 3 for each of these so that I could have some freedom of choice here. I had 5 for young player, and Sullivan was 5th. I also had Owen Wolff just above him, who I think went fully under the radar because I don't think we paid a ton of attention to Austin this year until they made us pay attention to them right around the All-Star game. But I think that he had 6 goals, 8 assists this year. It's his first year, of course, not playing for his father. And I think that you've just seen a different side of his game come out. And I think that he's been more effective in all phases than he was in the past. So I think that Owen Wolf also had a very good year and deserves a shout out. But I still think it is like some distance between Alex Freeman, Obed Vargas, and the rest, which would include Diego Luna as well.
Is it weird at all that Seattle let Obed Vargas go to the U20 World Cup? Like, is that to be expected with a young player when you're still in regular season, or is it odd that they let him jump for a good chunk of time?
Joe, do you have strong takes on this one?
Just that it smacks of a move that a team who wants to make a lot of money would make.
Yeah,
that's my take
was
on
it. There's no youth international tournament that is a bigger deal than the U20 World Cup. It's bigger than the Olympics, bigger than the U teenage age whatever's. Like, This is the shop window to show a player who is ready to make the leap, and it makes a lot of sense to let him go, especially also if he just wants to make sure that he is still in Mexico's plans after not getting many looks from the senior national team. You need to be eligible or available for the 20s. Build that partnership with Gilbert Moore, all these things. So.
And in his time away, the Sounders have won both games, Joe.
They're deep.
Wow.
It's the deepest team.
Whereas
in MLS
Orlando
history.
have been very bad without Alex Freeman.
Interesting points. Sounds like a guy who doesn't want to make his pick. Step up. To the plate,
no, it's
Joe.
Obed Vargas. It is.
Nice.
I'll give it to you.
So did we just tie 3-3?
You did.
That's unsatisfying. Good job, Jeff.
Good job.
I mean,
Cordial draw.
I think it means you made compelling arguments, but also there were some runaway contenders in there. I think each of you won 2 when you had the first pick, and then each of you pulled one back.
I like
with
that.
the
And broke serve once.
Yeah,
Good.
parity still, like League of Parity.
League of choice, baby.
Right?
League of
Right?
choice.
And of choice.
Do we want to just rifle through our best 11s real quick, just name some guys, and then that's it?
I was trying to think of a tiebreaker that it can involve either saying a nice thing or a mean thing about DC United, but no, let's just go with best 11s instead. That'd be more fun.
All right.
Jeff, take it away.
I'm doing a 4-3-3 for mine, just so you know. So for listeners, just so you know, MLS sends these ballots out, and they use a different format every year. This year, you can pick from, I think, 5 different formations, which are pretty rigid, and players are assigned to those position groups like you see with the All-Star game. All of this to say, there is no combination and calibration of a best 11 that you will see officially this year that includes all 4 of Anders Dreyer, Lionel Messi, Sam Surridge, and Denny Bouanga. So be ready for one of them to be snubbed, and you can probably guess which one it will be. Anyway, I have a 4-3-3 for mine this year. Dane St. Clair in goal, Michael Boxall, Tim Ream, Alex Freeman, and Kai Wagner at defense. Midfield, I have Christian Roldan and Jesper Tverskov behind Evander, and then I've got Anders Dreyer, Lionel Messi, and Sam Surridge as my forward line.
The only differences I have, Jeff, were 9 of 11 is at center back, where I have Blackman and Reagan. You had Ream and Boxall. That's pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of continuity between those 11s. I think we're basically bang on there.
I am one of those who always submits his ballot the day after decision day, so like I'm waiting a little bit. Tim Ream is the shakiest pick on my 11, so you may have swayed me to either Blackman or Reagan. We'll see how they do this weekend.
We've done good work today.
Ream and Boxall playing a high line. We all want to see that one happen.
Yes, we do.
Oh yeah, Grams FC.
Let's make that happen. Until then, Joe Lowry, congrats on your draw win today, my friend.
Thank you very much, Taylor. It means a lot.
And Jeff Ruder, congrats on your draw win. Thank you for being candid about the situation with your career with The Athletic, and thank you for all of the work you've put into covering Major League Soccer, to expanding its appeal, to giving us more insight into it, and to covering the 400 other things you cover at the same time. Nicely done, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a doozy of a stretch here, but doing this show has helped a lot over the last few weeks. And so thank you as well for continuing to invite me back and giving me a warm hello and welcome every time I show up. So thank you.
Thank you for your warm hellos and welcomes. Thank you for your warm colors contrasted with Joe, who appears to be slowly going into black and white as this episode has gone on. Joe, what is happening with the contrast? All right. That is a question for our YouTube viewers. For now, listeners and YouTube viewers, thank you all so much for listening and viewing. Hello and welcome. Welcome, hello again. And we'll talk to you very soon.